Hi, and welcome to today's episode of pianoTV. I'm Allysia, your host, and for today's Q&A session, I thought I would go in more of a personal direction and talk to you guys about the pieces of music that I really want to learn how to play eventually. These are my dream pieces, the ones that might be 5 years away, 50 years away, I don't know. The pieces that I'm willing to wait an entire lifetime to learn. Let's get started. The question is, what are some of your personal future goal pieces? If you had the time, which pieces would you eventually love to tackle and truly learn? I absolutely love this question. And I will say that my dreams and ambitions have changed over the years. My list would have been an entirely different beast had I written it 10 years ago than what it is today. And that's okay. It's okay to shift your goals and ambitions and things like that. Now, before we get started with my list, I would strongly encourage you to make your own list. What are the pieces that you would love to learn, the pieces that really fire you up, that when you listen to, you're like, yes, this is why I'm learning piano. Write those down, put it somewhere prominent. It can be a really good source of inspiration and motivation for when you're kind of dragging your feet at the piano. For this video, I've broken up my dream piano pieces into categories by era. So we have Baroque, Classical, Romantic, and Modern. And it's not going to be an even distribution. There are a lot more Romantic era pieces than the other genres, but that's just my preference. The first one I'm going to mention is not a single piece. It's an entire book. It's a box, WellTempered Clavier, the first volume. I'm aware there are 2 volumes. The only reason that I selected the first one and not the second is just because I know it better. It is my dream to eventually work my way through this entire book. And it's not like this book is super crazy hard. I mean, it's challenging, but to learn every single piece in it would be quite the project. And I'm actually in the middle of a long, ongoing Bach project right now to learn all his preludes, then sinfonias, inventions, WellTempered Clavier being the pinnacle once I've completed all of that. This will take me many, many years, but this has been a goal of mine for many, many years. Learning the WellTempered Clavier is my only Baroque goal, and learning this, well, the specific sonata from Beethoven sonatas is my only classical era goal. I love Mozart sonatas and I love Haydn sonatas, but Beethoven's just speak to me on a different level. And I'm not even talking about his more romantic-esque later sonatas. I'm talking more his earlier ones that are much more lighthearted and in the classical style. The specific sonata that I really want to learn, and it's pretty tough, is his Opus 2 number 3. I believe it's his third sonata. It's just really playful and lighthearted. Actually, I want to learn all of the Opus 2 sonatas. I think they're all great, but the third one I think is my favorite. And yeah, this is Beethoven before Beethoven was really, really wild and angsty, and there's just something that I find really charming about it. So that takes us to the Romantic era category of music, which is where the bulk of this list is going to lie, again, just because it's my personal preference. I really like romantic music. And we're going to start with Chopin, because who doesn't want to learn more Chopin? Narrowing this down to one piece, because there's a lot of Chopin I'd like to learn. I'm working my way through some of his shorter forms like his waltzes and nocturnes, but I really eventually want to tackle his Opus 66 Fantasy Impromptu. It's ferociously difficult. I'm nowhere near being able to play something like that passably, but that one sits high as like a shining star in my dream repertoire. A lot of people are really into Chopin's ballads, and that's cool. I like his ballads. I just don't have a strong burning desire to learn those, though a lot of people are really drawn to those. Those are very popular. The next piece on my list is probably the craziest composition on this list in terms of difficulty, and it's Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2. I've done a whole video on this Rhapsody. I absolutely love it. It's probably one of the only pieces on this list that would have been on my list 10 years ago. It's really long, it's really tough, but it's so exciting. It's Liszt at his absolute best. It's got like lots of wild twists and turns. It's so dramatic. I ramble about it in that video, so if you want to hear more about his second Hungarian Rhapsody, just check out that video. If I ever manage to learn this piece and play it reasonably well, that is when I will have considered myself to have made it as a piano player. Unlike the last piece, this piece, or 3 pieces, again, I'm choosing a group of pieces, hopefully that's acceptable, would not have been on my list 10 years ago, because Isaac Albeniz was not on my radar 10 years ago. He's a relatively new discovery for me. He's got lots of great late intermediate, early advanced, and then crazy difficult music. I love his Iberia Suites, especially the first one. Each of his 4 Iberia Suites have 3 pieces in them, and it would be like a goal to eventually learn all 12 of the pieces, but it's the first 3 that I'm really into learning. The first piece, Evocation, is brooding and dramatic. Actually, all 3 are quite dramatic. And the second, El Puerto, is my favorite one because it's just got such a good driving rhythm, and it's really playful. It's got lots of pizzazz. And then the third one is Fête du à Seville, is a dramatic march. While we're on the subject of 3-piece collections, I want to tackle WCs Stamps, which is a collection of 3 piano pieces. Again, I'm having a hard time. I like learning collections as opposed to just individual pieces. It's like when I listen to music, I would rather listen to an album than just like the hits. I love the dreamy East Asian flavor of the first track, and the second track is Debussy's take on Spanish music, and then the third one is just like, it's really angsty and really fast and intense, and if I can get my fingers to move that fast, then I'll consider myself awesome. I don't know. It's impressive anyway. If I were to narrow down this list to just a top 3, Revels Dough, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, would be on a top 3. I love this piece. It's one of my favorite piano pieces of all time. It just glistens. It sounds like water, which is more or less what it's about. Plus, I'm a sucker for like rapid fire accompaniment with a melody embedded within it. I just think it sounds really cool. Another one that is a favorite of mine is Bartók's 15 Hungarian Peasant songs. I like this because it's a 15-minute work, which is a lot, all things considered. But if you think like that averages 1 minute per piece. So it's kind of like theme and variations in that sense, where there's a bunch of really small miniatures. And I like learning pieces like that just because I don't know, like breaks it up in my head a little bit more instead of just like a gigantic piece, even though it ends up being the same length. You know what I'm talking about? The chords and harmonies in this are just beautiful, almost jazzy and very soulful for Bartók. Bartók is one of those composers, like, honestly, I should do more videos on Bartók because there's no one like him. You can recognize his music right away. It's so distinctive. The final piece in this list is like Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2 in that it's been on my list. I've said list a lot of times since I was a teenager. For a really long time. I've loved this piece for as long as I can remember. And it is a modern one. George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. Now, this is a symphonic arrangement, but I really like piano versions. It's just, it's really intense. It's like, I can't remember how many pages of music it is. It's like 70 pages of music or something insane like that. Not to mention, it's jazzy, and I have very, very little experience and or skill in jazz styles, so huge learning curve for me there, but that would be another shining star pinnacle piece. And that is all for today's video, and that makes up the list of must-learn pieces that whether I get to them when I'm like 50 or 80 or whatever, I'll be happy. It's fine. These are just pieces that I think are really, really cool, and I'd love to be able to play them one day. I would also love to see what your selections would be, and feel free to leave them in the comments below, what your like ultimate dream piano pieces are. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can check me out over on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and stuff like that, and on Patreon. See you in the next video. Hi, and welcome to... This next one is my only classical era goal, I think. Hang on a second. I'm pretty sure. Yep.